What if I told you that one of the most vibrant cities on Earth was swallowed by time itself? A place where merchants from across continents spoke over 30 languages, where the world's oldest grafted fruit trees grew, where ideas of medicine, mathematics, and astronomy shifted human understanding forever. This isn't a fantasy. This is the story of the lost city of Merv. Welcome to another episode of Historical Hidden Gems. Sit back and buckle up, because today's journey takes us to Central Asia and a city whose very name means recorded memory. But what happens when history forgets the recorder itself? Let's dive in. About 2,500 years ago, in the heart of what is now modern-day Turkmenistan, Merv stood as an oasis of possibility along the famous Silk Road. You might be familiar with ancient trading hotspots like Samarkand or Constantinople, but would it shock you to know that Merv, during the 12th century, was regarded as the largest city in the world? Yes, a city that rivaled, and in many ways exceeded, the splendors of its more remembered contemporaries. Picture this. Close your eyes and imagine an oasis glittering beneath the desert sun, surrounded by miles of protective walls, stretching 4 miles across, with towers soaring over 100 feet high. Inside those walls, you would find bustling bazaars where goods from China, India, Persia, the Arabian Peninsula, and far-off Byzantium converged. Silk, spices, and gems filled this city to the brim. But Merv wasn't just about things you could hold in your hands. It was a nexus of ideas. The city housed some of the most advanced libraries and observatories of its time. Students and scholars from many different countries streamed in to cut their teeth on subjects as diverse as algebra, geometry, astronomy, and philosophy. Al-Khwarizmi, known as the father of algebra, is said to have consulted findings in Merv during his era of monumental discovery. Here, ideas traveled as freely as the trade caravans snaking out of the city's gates. It was an intellectual gold mine, and in the middle of this hubbub lived poets, scientists, and artists who shaped human history. As you journey through Merv, you'd also come across a unique agricultural marvel. Did you know that Merv was among the first places in the world to successfully graft different types of fruit trees onto one another? That's right. Farmers in Merv were enjoying hybrid fruits, what you might find labeled as exotic produce today, in ancient times. They achieved agricultural feats that seem downright futuristic when you think about it. With all of this under its belt, why don't we talk about Merv today? A city at the intersection of trade, culture, and intellect should hold an enviable place in world history. But there's a twist. You see, even in eras where walls symbolize endurance, there are forces stronger than stone. The Black Plague, relentless waves of conquest, and natural barriers all contributed to Merv's downward spiral. However, its biggest blow came courtesy of one man, Genghis Khan's son, Tolui. In the year 1221, Tolui swept through Merv with the Mongol forces. It was said to be one of the bloodiest conquests in history. Historical accounts mention rivers running red with the blood of over 700,000 people. The city that had once been an oasis of hope and progress became a broken shadow of its former self almost overnight. Some survivors fled with what they could carry, but the hub that once connected the world dissolved like a mirage in the blistering desert heat. Amazingly, echoes of Merv persisted. During Timur's reign in the 14th century, there were attempts to rebuild the city, but it never reclaimed its original splendor. Over time, the shifting sands and disinterest from regional rulers buried Merv so deeply in layers of obscurity that, for centuries, it was nearly forgotten altogether. Fast forward to the 21st century, archaeologists began piecing together the forgotten puzzle of Merv. Excavations have uncovered extraordinary details: remnants of Islamic mosques that stood among Zoroastrian temples, parts of underground aqueducts whose engineering marvel rivals some of today's systems, and scripts hinting at the city's diverse and dynamic infrastructure. These details add flesh to the bones of a once living entity, and don't think the spirit of Merv isn't around today. Modern Turkmenistan boasts heavily of its historic significance. In fact, UNESCO declared Merv a World Heritage Site in 1999. preserving the ruins left behind for curious minds from everywhere to explore. Tourists catch glimpses of what life here must have been like. Ancient mosques, the rectangular walls of old citadels, and even some of the canals that watered Merv's legendary gardens. Yet, despite these magnificent ruins, Merv often struggles to occupy its rightful place in broader historical consciousness. Why? Because history often caters to the victors and the loudest players. Cities like Baghdad or Cairo, linked closely to persistent centers of power, capture more lasting historical spotlight, despite Merv arguably rivaling their impact at its height. And yet, learning about places like Merv reminds us of the delicate transformative thread of human endeavors. It teaches us that incredible civilizations can flourish and fade, but that doesn't mean their legacies should be considered any less important. How many other Mervs might there have been across the world, erased by time, yet foundational to the story of us all? As we close today's episode, picture Merv as it might have looked in its prime, a bustling hub of innovation, diversity, and hope. Think about how much we owe to human experiments in uniting knowledge across geography, language, and religion. Think about how the sands of time can hide marvels whose essence still shapes our world without us even realizing it. So, next time you hear someone speak of the Silk Road, you can casually drop, "But have you heard of Merv?" And when they look puzzled, you now have a story to share, a story of brilliance, devastation, and rediscovery. Thank you for joining me to uncover this historical hidden gem. As always, like, comment, and share this video if you found it fascinating. And of course, hit subscribe so you'll never miss another slice of lost history unearthed. Till next time, stay curious.